Hi, welcome. My name is Corey Schwartzman. I'm the Executive Director of Transformed Hearts Counseling Center. Today, we're going to talk about why marriage counseling is not working for you. So whether you're watching this with your partner, your spouse, you're in a long-term relationship or marriage, or just starting out in one, or just watching this as an individual, you're going to learn some things that are really helpful at a lot of different levels of life, personally, professionally, parenting. You can use a lot of these tools in a lot of areas. So if you like this video, take some time to like, share, subscribe to our channel. We have other videos out there, and we don't do a lot of videos. We do a lot of blogging, and but we are working on building up our video content and training. So if you're a professional watching this, send us an email. And if you're interested in training in our program called SARA, Sex Addiction Recovery Association, so professional or lay person. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to share my screen here. Why marriages or marriage counseling or coaching, it doesn't seem to be working for you. So we're going to talk about what addiction is, intimacy, anorexia, sex addiction, these sorts of things. Addiction is a lot of things. We are located here in Colorado, and we serve people all over Colorado, the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, with the internet and our website. We help people all over, and we'll talk about our resources here as we go through the slideshow. So a little bit about my story and our story. My wife, Carrie, is that I grew up in South Dakota. My wife grew up in North Dakota. We met in Nebraska. I'm a product of a divorced family. I've been, my parents divorced when I was 7. It's very ugly, traumatic, a lot of neglect and poor parenting styles, and went off to college, and eventually lived and studied in Israel, double majored in religion and psychology. Went off to get my master's in counseling from Denver Seminary, and eventually became licensed, and now been in practicing for almost 20 years. But in that, we have 4 daughters, and my recovery journey began about 6 years into our marriage, when I began to share a little bit of my struggle with lust and creating emotional affairs with every woman I pretty much worked with, and becoming honest and vulnerable with that, and struggling with fantasy and lust in my head, and masturbation, self-stimulation, and just really robbing my amazing wife of intimacy. And as intimacy, recovering intimacy anorexic, a lot of us intimacy anorexic men and women there too, but I can speak for the men. We live married, we're married men, I like to say, with single men mindsets. Okay. And you women out there listening to this have seen this and know what I'm talking about. And so very hurtful, and hurt my wife very deeply. And we've been on our own recovery journey now for almost 20 years. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not perfect. Still in the journey myself. I tell my clients in my groups and in our intensives. And I'm learning new things every day. I'm just hungry to learn new things better. I believe we can do counseling, we can do recovery better than we did last week, last month, last year. As we go through this, I tell all my clients, don't believe anything Corey says, seek the truth for yourself. I'm not your savior. I'm not your guru. That's a little bit about me. So let's start with what is an addiction. So I love Brene Brown. I love her stuff. She describes this as chronic numbing. Chronic numbing. So how do we chronically numb? Social media, Netflix binging, Amazon buying, eating food. These are generally pretty socially acceptable addictions, especially food here in the US. And chronic numbing, from drugs, alcohol, and all the traditional ones as well, sex addiction, intimacy, anorexia. So what is sex addiction then? Chronic numbing of sexual pleasure. So a lot of sex addicts subconsciously more believe that sex equals love or love equals sex. And just passing Valentine's Day, you see this all over the place, hijacking of what love really is. If this was true, prostitutes, men and women, prostitution, these prostitutes would be the most loved individuals in the world, and they're not. Object sex versus intimacy. So a lot of sex addicts struggle with object sex, objectifying their partner, versus intimacy. Intimacy is about, it's a word breakdown there, into me, you see, it's about vulnerability. Intimacy equals love, and you can be intimate at a lot of different levels. Doesn't have anything to do with sex. Okay, there's emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, and intellectual intimacy. What is love addiction then? So love addiction is a little bit different. Here in Colorado, mountain climbing and climbing 14er is very popular. So the top of the mountain for the sex addict is all about the orgasm. Okay, the climb up the mountain is more about the relationship. So the love addict enjoys the relationship and generally bounces from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next. They're never not in a relationship. Now, it can involve sex, it may not. Sex can be part of it, but that's not the main focal point. It's more about the relationship and companionship. And again, the sex addict is more about, doesn't matter who, when, where, they just want the orgasm. Intimacy anorexia is also known the starvation of love. Okay, starvation of love. So like the medical word anorexia means starvation of food, we use it to mean starvation of love. So if you're in a relationship, married or monogamous, you may have seen this. You may have not yet. You might think your partner is not an intimacy anorexic. They're pursuing you, they're loving you. Intimacy at all levels is great. Generally, you won't see intimacy anorexia until after the wedding day and that commitment. Okay. And that's where now they can't hide anymore. And now they get scared and they want to protect themselves from, it's almost like a light switch before the wedding, after a wedding. And this person is not the same person. Whoa, what happened here? Okay, what's going on? And generally, most likely, you're dealing with intimacy anorexic. And I write about this in our book, Out of the Darkness, with stats and things. So your brain is your main sex organ. Okay. Not your penis or vagina. Understanding the biological chemistry of the brain during sex. Okay. So there's a high amount of enkephalins and endorphins that dump to your prefrontal cortex upon orgasm. And what you look at, think about, is what you sexually glue to. So also this chemical called oxytocin is given off, and it's a bonding chemical given off during sex. And it's also the chemical given off between a mother and child during nursing. Okay. So what can happen if you are in a bad, unhealthy relationship and there's a lot of sex and that oxytocin is going off and that enkephalin endorphin dump, and you can't seem to not get away from these people, or you keep picking the same person with a different name. You know, what's going on here? I'll explain that in a little bit. Is that oxytocin? You're bonded to them chemically. In fact, sex can make you stupid, meaning you don't know why you cannot get away from this guy. You know, logically, everything going on, and this is not a healthy relationship, but you keep going back. It's oxytocin. So, a problem. The word addiction is used and abused in our culture. So a lot of people don't like the word addiction, especially sex addict is a very toxic, carries a lot of negative connotation. A lot of people equate sex addiction to pedophilia, and those are by far not the same things. I've worked corrections for many years. And I would say pedophiles are sex addicts, but most sex addicts are not pedophiles. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So do I or my partner have a problem? Okay, and I like to define a problem, steer away from the word addiction in these 5 areas. So does my behavior affect? Now, behavior can mean put in an X in there. My behavior of eating, spending money, whatever it is. Okay. Does it affect my job or my career? Does it affect my legal status? Does this behavior affect my money? Does it affect my health? And finally, what most people contact Transform Hearts is their personal relationships. Okay. It's affecting their monogamous or marital partnership. Okay. And so if you say yes to 1, 2, or all 5 of these, then you might have a problem. And generally it's this last one down here, personal relationships. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So do I have a problem? So I bring this up to help kind of break through that denial in a very more overt way in the back door. Okay. And helping people see what behaviors are causing them pain. All right. So a lot of this information I don't just freely give out, but I want to start getting this out because it needs to be out. So the 5 rules for a successful relationship. 1, generally your relationship is not going well is because the couple is stuck in a right, I'm right, you're wrong. And we need to get out of right versus wrong. Okay. And we'll talk about this. This is also known as part of the ego. Okay. And we need to move into wise versus foolish. Okay. Wise versus foolish. Next is marriage or your relationship is not about making you happy. If you believe your relationship is going to make you happy, you're already in codependency 101. Okay. You are living outside in. And I want to teach you how to live inside out. But my happiness does not come from my partner. It comes from within me. And we want to move toward versus happy versus holy. So we want to move towards holiness or wholeness, mind, body, soul, wholeness. Next is a lot of couples get stuck in fault versus responsibility. Fault, blame, what I call the ABCs, accuse, blame, criticize. Okay, it does not get us anywhere. It does not get us anywhere. I'm interested in who's going to be the responsible one, who's going to be the hero. Okay. Want versus give. I don't care what my couples want from each other. I want to know what you're each willing to give in this process. Either versus and. We need to stay out of this either or mentality. Get into and. And's gonna, this little conjunction and is very, very powerful. Okay. And's gonna save us a lot of arguments. It can be and. I have 4 daughters, and has saved me a tremendous amount of conflict when we're going out to eat or I'm picking something up on the way home. Chinese, Mexican, pizza, I get 4 different answers. I'm not going to stop at all 4, but I'll at least try 2 places. And doesn't have to be either or, it can be and. Now moving to and will change. If you write the word and backwards, it begins to change your DNA. Interesting. Your DNA. And quantum physics. I'm a big Dr. Joe Dispenza fan. Check his stuff out. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Energy psychology, quantum is changing your cells, your DNA, as you do this work. So you'll notice on this side, if we stay in right, wrong, you need to make me happy, it's all your fault, this is what I want, and either this or that, this is also all egoic. Okay, this is all ego. Okay, the toughest thing in this process, and the reason couples are not getting better, is because they're both in their egos. And if ego wins, the relationship loses. Okay, we see this on the news every night. Democrat versus Republican, white versus black. Ego loves duality, loves polarity. Okay, everything you're seeing on the news is egoic. If ego wins, we the people lose. That's not just here in the US, that's on the planet. Ego, gotta stay away from ego and live in non-egoic. Start making wise choices. What's wise for one couple may be foolish for the next. Okay? What's wise for this woman in this marriage may be foolish for that woman in this other marriage. All right, understanding cognitive dissonance. So this I've written about. You can go to the website, read more about this, but this is important. So cognitive dissonance. Cognitive simply means thought. Dissonance is a musical term that means discord. I love words. I love the study of words, etymology. As you read our blogs, you become a member and get our weekly blog links sent to your email. Check those out. So type 1, and I write about this. There's a 2-part blog on this. So type 1 is when my core beliefs do not match my behavior. Okay. This will create anxiety and eventually depression. This is another way to think of anxiety and depression. So if I'm betraying myself, so let's say I have these core beliefs about me, but over here, my behavior does not match these beliefs. It's going to create cognitive dissonance, thought discord, discord of thought. I am betraying myself. Okay. And this is where a lot of anxiety and eventually depression comes from. So you have an option by changing the behavior to match your core beliefs. Okay. So once I get my behavior to match up in my head, my heart, and my behaviors back into alignment, and in chiropractic care, they call this subluxation, out of alignment, get back into alignment, I'll begin to see anxiety and depression will start to go away. Now, you can also maybe change your core beliefs to match behavior. Okay, as a father of 4 daughters, I've learned I've had to change some of my beliefs about parenting to parent my daughters differently. Okay, so sometimes you have to change beliefs, sometimes you have to change behavior, but once they're in sync, you will start to feel better. Okay. Type 2. Again, we have core beliefs, but now new information is coming at us. This is known as cognitive dissonance type 2. The new information does not compute with the old hardware and the beliefs. Okay. It doesn't fit the program. Okay. The hardest part in this process is not learning new things. The hardest part is unlearning what you think is true. Okay. As I work with couples all over the planet, the world, in my own recovery, this is hard. And probably the hardest beliefs to let go of are generally religious and political, because generally those have consequences and ripple effects of harming or ending family or friends, relationships in your community. The new information does not compute with the old hardware and beliefs. So what happens is defensive mechanism like anger, denial, justification, minimization, accusation, blame, and criticism flare up to protect the person's beliefs. Okay, so Stockholm Syndrome. What is Stockholm Syndrome? So I blogged about this. You can check it out on the website. I believe it was in the 70s. Some Iranian terrorists hijacked or took hostage some Israeli athletes. So what happened was the captees began to side with their captors. Okay, generally Stockholm Syndrome, you hear about a young woman, 16, 17, was abducted. 10, 20 years later, you find that she is living with her abductor and they have a family together, 4, 5, 6 kids. Okay, what's going on? This is known as Stockholm Syndrome. The captee sides with the captor. So how does this apply to me? So in the story, some good guys, the military, the cops came in, guns blazing to set the captees free. What they didn't know is the captees again sided with the captor. And so they were fighting against more people than they thought. So a lot of the good guys died. Okay. So how this applies to me, and you, is I believe we all suffer from certain levels of cognitive dissonance, thought discord of thought. Okay. And we all suffer in that we have beliefs about what we think is true about money, the world, science, marriage, relationships, spirituality, religion. And so what can happen is this new information is coming at me, it doesn't compute. So we begin to minimize, justify, rationalize, get angry, and we shut down. Okay. My job when working with clients is to help set you free. Okay. I'm not here to hurt you. So knowing this can really help you when somebody's trying to help you. So you're in a prison. Okay. And the key and the lock to your freedom is all on the inside. Okay. I'm just inviting you to come out, but it's going to be scary because you're going to have to change some beliefs of what you think is true. And if you look at this word belief, in the middle of the word, and I blogged about this, is the word L-I-E, lie. Your beliefs lie to you, L-I-E. And so these beliefs helping me survive as a little boy, little girl, are not serving me well anymore as an adult. Okay. And it can be scary to let them go, to change them. So as you do this, my alcoholics believe alcohol is helping them, makes them more sociable. Okay. Makes them better human. Okay. Meanwhile, everybody around them is hurting. Okay. They believe the alcohol is helping them. So they are in cognitive dissonance, Stockholm Syndrome. Captee now is siding with the captor, the alcohol. Okay. Same, we all have the captor, the belief is now holding us captive. Okay, we've sided with that belief. And so in my journey, I have cognitive dissonance type 2 moments almost daily now, coming out of things like, wow, sometimes they're really big and can be really devastating to change. Sometimes, more often than not anymore, they're smaller. It does get easier. We call it spiritual awakening. That's happening, really on a planetary level. All right. Mistakes couples make. What you will learn from this video. So couples do not understand the 3 types of masturbation, not ways. I'm not talking about ways today. We're going to talk about types. Why pornography is so harmful to the monogamous relationship. Male porn versus sexualizing of women. So male pornography is they over-sexualize women in their bodies. Female porn is they over-emotionalize men. Okay, so daytime dramas, okay, dating shows. These are all forms of female pornography. Love novels, Daniel Steele, 50 Shades of Grey. It's over-emotionalizing men. The 4 rules of amazing, mind-blowing sex. Talk about those later. The victimized women shame men model. talk about that, what codependency is, 2 empty cups, 2 ticks, basically 2 ticks, no dog. They're sucking the life out of each other. They want both of them, 2 empty cups, pouring emptiness into each other. I got a blog about that. You can check it out on the website. Law of attraction in wanting a healthier partner. We'll talk about that. What is ego and what the addiction to being offended is all about, and what intimacy anorexia is, and how is the silent killers of monogamous and married relationships. Why intimacy anorexia is the silent killer. What forgiveness really is, how to have deep intimacy without sex, and we'll talk about the dailies that can transform your relationship, and then how to restore trust quickly. So next, if you want to keep watching this video, you will learn about our 5 and 10 day intensive program and how to get a free consultation from Transformed Hearts Counseling and making that appointment with yours truly. All right, getting to the good stuff. So a lot of relationships struggle with trust. And I define trust as trust equals positive, consistent behavior over time. Okay, distrust is negative, inconsistent behavior over time. So one of the things we teach is do not believe what your partner says, believe what they do. And it works both ways. Works for you as well. A lot of women say, well, I forgive him, but do not show forgiving behavior. Okay. So is that really forgiveness? Okay. Any more than trusting him to show positive, consistent behavior? We both need to show positive, consistent behavior. This is why we teach, again, believe behavior, not words, and then use of the polygraph in our practice. So generally, I have found over the years, the reason the couple is not getting healthier and one or both still have a lie. Okay, so we implement the polygraph. Okay, it's not always him and his pornography and infidelity. Sometimes it's hers. She may have things going on emotionally with another guy. She was abused as a little girl, never told anybody, or he was. Almost every time the polygraph, this is the demo work, I call it, is to get down to the dry rot, get to the foundation. And we got to do some demo work sometimes to get there, and then some rebuilding. But to do that, the polygraph is a huge tool that we use to see if there's lying by omission, or clarification in existing information. Sometimes it's really big and profound, and sometimes it's just smaller things. So the polygraph is a huge tool that we use. So the 3 types of masturbation. Type 1 is about 1 to 5% of the population that never masturbates. And again, this is not to be confused with ways to masturbate. Type 2 is 25 to 30% of the population that masturbates, that stays present in the moment with their body. Type 3 is about 60 to 65% of the population that masturbates to thoughts, fantasies, or pornography. And this is the dangerous type. Okay, this is why you could call it low-level vibration intimacy. Okay. Type 3 steals the intimacy, steals the sexual energy from the monogamous relationship. So if you have porn in your bedroom, it will never, ever, ever help. I promise. 50 Shades of Grey, never going to help. Okay. What is pornography? So pornography is the over-sexualization. Again, we just read sexually for women, emotionally for men. And masturbation is self-stimulation. Even without ejaculation, it is still masturbation. Okay, your brain, again, is your main sex organ, not your penis, not your vagina. It's your brain. So we got to retrain our brain. So when you are sexual with your partner, you want to begin to have eyes open, lights on, low light. Doesn't have to be big fluorescent lights, but just not pitch black, candlelight. Nurturing, loving conversation. A lot of couples don't know how to talk to each other. Okay, they're just trained to do pornographic type of activities. That's what they watch. That's what they do. They've been programmed. okay, by the television. Okay, there's a reason they call it a television. It is telling you a vision. The reason why they call it a program, it is programming you in the theta level. It's called beta, alpha, theta level of your mind. Okay, this is why you're talking to your spouse or your kids while they're watching TV or on their devices and they don't hear you because they're in theta level of brainwaves. It's just pre-sleep, and that is the most programmable form of programming, is to get you in that theta state. Okay. So anyway, nurturing, loving conversation, to talk. I love you. Thank you for sharing yourself with me. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And the last is quality, not quantity. Okay. Some people, I work with guys that have masturbated 3-4 times a day and expect sex from their wives every day. Okay. That's not intimacy. That's abuse. Okay. I call it cake versus steak. And if you're doing sex wrong, you're going to want cake, and your body processes that cake, carbs and sugar really quick, and you're always hungry. Okay. We are about quantity. The average couple is about 1 to 2 to 3 times a week, depending on your age, of real intimacy. So if I eat steak, I'm satisfied. Okay. I'm not eating cake anymore. Retraining your brain. All right. Here at Transform Hearts, we are not what I call, and there are programs out there, many of them are what I call the victimized women, shame men model. Victimized women, shame men model. Stay away from these types of programs. So this model gets quick short-term results but creates long-term consequences. So it encourages and reinforces women to stay in recall and trauma, talking about what happened over and over and over again. Okay, in their support groups and in couples therapy. It is not going to get you better. And Dr. Joe Dispenza's Benzurial explains this extensively. Read his books, watch his videos. Keeps women stuck as the victim, as angry, blaming, focused on, if you didn't, I wouldn't have to. Or if you would be, I would be. Okay, this is a codependent statement. Okay, my happiness is coming from you doing what I want you to do. Okay. That is never going to make you happy. It's going to keep you stuck in the victim. I'm all about, as a father of 4 daughters, and my amazing wife is empowering them not to be victims. Okay. Now, there's also a good author, Patricia Evans. You can read the Verbally Abusive Spouse and Controlling People. She talks about these things. Okay. But codependency, these are codependent statements. Okay. Got to stay out of that. Not taking my power back, not giving it away. This increases relapse potential, as shame is the fuel that feeds the addiction. So he stays shamed, might come out a little bit, goes back into shame, feels pain, medicates the pain with porn, masturbation, infidelity, whatever, drugs, alcohol. Creates resentments, offenses, and unforgiveness, and this perpetuates codependency in the couple's relationship, or what I call the empty cup syndrome. And you can read that blog in more detail, both expecting to be poured into. And meanwhile, the only thing they both have to pour into each other is emptiness. And we're getting upset about each other's emptiness. You can't give what you don't have. Okay. The toughest thing in this process is dealing with the person in the mirror. And your partner, your spouse, is just a mirror showing you what you need to work on. They're actually the medicine that's going to help you heal. All right. Codependency is a lot of things. I like to simply define it as AKA relationship addiction, that you're always having to be in a relationship. Okay. 2 empty cups have holes. So here's an example of a cup. And before the relationship, both were pretty healthy, pretty healthy, able to pour into each other. But once married, cracks began to be found, and now both don't hold liquid, they leak. And if you would do, I would do. If you would not be, I would not be. Okay, this is codependency, outside in living. Two ticks sucking the life out of each other because they have no source of a dog. So law of attraction, reaping and sowing. You want a healthier partner, you become the healthier partner. And I work on couples on this extensively. So a lot of couples, you know, he and she, they're both like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, he's a 50, she's a 50. Okay. And the relationship doesn't work out, and they're in a new relationship, and he's thinking, you know, if I could just find that person that's like at 100 healthiness, you know, then I'll be 100. Okay. You will only attract the level of healthiness that you are all day long. It's the only way it works. There's no escaping it. Okay. And I love Dispenza's idea about make a list of who you want your partner to be. Okay. Look like, act like, interests, commonalities, and then you become that person. Okay. If you want to be in a relationship with a person that's 100, you become the 100 of healthiness. Okay. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to keep falling in a relationship, new partner, same behaviors, different name. And many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what is the ego? It's a lot of material out there right now, a lot of good stuff. I'm a big Eckhart Tolle fan. Check out his book, The New Earth. Big Marianne Williamson fan. Check out her material. I'm a big fan of Byron Katie. You know, all of these, Dr. Joe Dispenza will help you understand the ego. So the definition is, I define it as an empty mansion with a fortified fence demanding to be filled. So the wounded child, the id or the it, the adult, you, or the ego, or the I am in the Latin, your critical parent, or the super above the ego, so the above the I am. You can check out more. Pete Walker writes about this in his book, Complex PTSD. You must become the observer to heal. Okay, the ego loves label, status, to be right, duality in order to protect you at all costs for itself. So the ego wants you for itself. Okay, the ego tells you you will be happy when. You'll be happy when blank. You'll be happy when you get that new promotion, a new relationship, somebody that really loves you. It's a lie. You gotta work on you. So there's just, again, this is a macro flyover today. So what is NMC anorexia, or what we call IA? Anorexia means starvation, so we define it as starvation of love. It is the intentional withholding of oneself physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and or sexually from a monogamous partner due to unresolved complex childhood or chronic traumas. And you can check out, again, go to the website transformedhearts.com and take the complex PTSD assessment. So more often than not, does your partner, so if you've been married 10 years, 20 years, so more often than not, more than 5 of the years, 20 years, more than 10 of the years, do you feel there? You can also answer this for them. And then the other way to do it is, would your partner answer it? How would they answer it for you? What is their opinion or perspective? And you can take this also, intimacy anorexia assessment on the website. So it's the withholding of love, withholding of praise from my partner, praise or appreciation more often than not. Do I or do they withhold sex or do not initiate sex? They withhold themselves spiritually or their faith more often than not. Controls with silence or anger, you know, shut down for days, weeks. Ongoing or ungrounded criticism of you or you of them. You stay too busy, no time for the relationship, always justifying, always a justified excuse. Intimacy anorexics, I always say, have PhDs in excuses. Controlling or shaming about money, directly or overtly, outspent, saved, invested. Unwilling or unable to identify or express feelings. And then You're more roommates than lovers. Act like roommates. Talk about, things, work, the weather, the kids, but never about themselves or each other. So if you score 5 or more of these, yes, more often than not, intimacy anorexia is present, and it is a beast to treat. All right, next, forgiveness. What the hell is it? There's a whole blog, 7-part blog series based on this out of our book. The book is called Offended, Deceived, Addicted. You can check out our resources and book titles. So many of my clients define forgiveness as not withholding a grudge, not keeping score, giving up the hope for justice, giving over to God, giving up my rights. Those are all good. Those are good. In my dysfunction, I defined it as, I used to define forgiveness as I forgive you or them in their wrongness in my rightness. But true forgiveness is ceasing to accuse. And this is from a book called The Bonds That Set Us Free by Terry Warner. Check it out. Ceasing to accuse. I love that. Ceasing to accuse. And there's much more to this. But again, this is a macro flyover today. So practical tools. Intimacy without sex. What we've been talking about. How do you do that, Corey? So we have tools called the 5 dailies. And we learn to grow our emotional vocabulary. It involves the practice of giving each other affirmations. It involves expressing a want or a need. As intimacy anorexics, we don't have any wants and needs. We wear a badge of honor, not having wants and needs. Okay, not healthy. We talk about in the daily exercises too, wants and needs, and also one thing I didn't do well today, one thing I did not do well today, and finally praying together. Okay, we have a tool called Confident Conversations where we learn how to have not too hot, accusing, blaming each other, not too cold, being too codependent with each other, but moving towards a confident conversation. So an example of a confident conversation is, this is what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? This is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? This is what I'm telling myself in my head. Can you give me more information? That's a just right conversation. Okay. Or I don't want you to think, feel, or believe. I do want you to think, feel, or believe, or understand. We talk about traditional forgiveness. Okay. Is you sit down face to face and take responsibility for 2 or 3 things that you want to ask forgiveness for. Okay. And then the listener gets to share yes, no, or I need yes, no, or I need more time with that. Okay. And the non-traditional form is this idea of ceasing to accuse. We have a tool for that. And finally, the validation exercise. Some people call it mirroring, parroting, like a parrot. So these are intimacy without sex. And then we get into intimacy exercises with that involve touch and sex. So we have a withholding, giving, embracing exercise. The 3 sex statements. Many couples don't know how to initiate sex verbally. So we learn how to that and not speak code. Hey, the kids are in bed, or hey, let's go play. So as we grow in our recovery, emotionally, spiritually, we also want to grow sexually. So as we do that, we use our adult words. So I teach couples how to do that. We also have tools about the sexual garden and the sexual agreement, following those rules. Eyes open, lights on, talking. So everything we do is connected, pieces to the puzzle. So this is just an introduction, a little bit of what we do. Check out our other videos. So the journey begins. Where do we go from here? So first, understand you are not alone and there is always hope. So if you're watching this by yourself, with your partner, if you're married, divorced, single, we see it all, okay? We have lots of resources on our website. You can give us a call at the numbers listed. or go to the website listed or email us at support@transformedhearts.com. And so to get the free consultation, you just need to fill out one of the assessments. You can fill out as many as you want, but just a minimal one. And then you'll get an email feed explaining to you how to set up your free consultation, okay? And you also learn more about the 5 and 10-day intensive programs. We do those throughout the week out of our office. We also do them virtually, or we do a hybrid option, okay? One comes into our office, the other stays home due to whatever reason, health issues, young children. So we'll do anything and everything we can to help you, okay? Resources, check out the blogs. There's over 200 blogs on our website that Carrie and I have written over the years. Get on our mailing lists, the videos, the books, the men's and women's support groups are also available. And yeah, so check that out. If you have any questions, comments, put that in the link. Well, I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure being with you today, and we look forward to serving you.